Remember when Friday nights meant video store adventures? That flickering fluorescent light, the smell of plastic cases, and wandering down those sci-fi aisles looking for something different. While everyone was grabbing Terminator 2 and The Matrix, some of us were digging deeper. The 90s was a goldmine of weird, wild sci-fi that most people completely missed. Those VHS tapes with bizarre cover art and taglines that promised mind-bending experiences. Today, we're diving into 20 forgotten gems that deserve another chance. Movies that blew my teenage mind but somehow vanished from the cultural conversation. Ready for a nostalgia trip to alternate realities? Dark City, 1998. I stumbled across Dark City on a rainy Tuesday night when nothing else was calling my name. Man, what a trip. This noir meets aliens masterpiece hit me like a fever dream. Remember when Rufus Sewell wakes up in that bathtub with no memory? Those creepy pale dudes in black coats literally stopping time and rearranging the city every night? The whole movie has this perpetual nighttime vibe that gets under your skin. Kiefer Sutherland's weird doctor character still gives me the creeps. And that visual style, like someone took German expressionism and a comic book and tossed them in a blender. If you miss this one, you've got to fix that mistake. Cube, 1997. Cube is that perfect example of doing so much with basically nothing. Just a bunch of colored rooms and pure psychological terror. First time I watched it, I was supposed to be studying for finals, and let's just say those math problems got completely forgotten. The premise is so simple but brilliant. Strangers wake up in this giant mechanical cube full of deadly traps, with no idea how they got there or why. No big stars, no fancy effects, just pure claustrophobic tension that builds and builds. The characters start turning on each other, the paranoia cranks up, and you realize humans might be scarier than any trap. Still gives me anxiety just thinking about it. The 13th Floor, 1999. I remember catching this one at a second-run theater when everyone else was obsessed with The Matrix. Talk about living in someone else's shadow. The 13th Floor tackles virtual reality in this noirish, mind-bending way that still holds up. Craig Bierko plays this tech genius who gets caught up in a murder mystery that spans between our world and a perfectly simulated 1930s Los Angeles. The way they transition between realities gave me actual goosebumps. That elevator scene where modern buildings disappear into nothing? I totally rewound that VHS like 3 times. The film has this creeping existential dread about what's real and what isn't. My college roommate and I argued about the ending for weeks. Seriously, one of the most underappreciated sci-fi movies from that era. Hardware, 1990. Remember when post-apocalyptic robot horror was actually scary? Hardware feels like a fever dream I had after eating too much pizza and watching Terminator on cable. This gritty British flick has a desert scavenger who finds robot parts and sells them to his artist girlfriend. Big mistake. The thing rebuilds itself in her apartment using household junk and goes on a killing spree. The whole movie has this rusty, sweaty, claustrophobic vibe that sticks with you. I watched it on a bootleg VHS that kept tracking weirdly during the kill scenes, which somehow made it even creepier. The soundtrack is killer too. Ministry, Public Image Ltd., and Iggy Pop blasting while this mechanical monstrosity hunts people down. Pure early 90s industrial nightmare fuel? Screamers, 1995. Based on a Philip K. Dick story, Screamers doesn't get nearly enough love. Peter Weller, yep, RoboCop himself, leads soldiers on this Dust Bowl planet fighting against these underground killing machines called Screamers that make this horrible high-pitched noise before they slice you up. What starts as a standard military sci-fi slowly morphs into this paranoid thriller when they discover the Screamers have evolved to look exactly like humans. I remember watching this with my older brother who kept yelling, "He's a screamer," at every character. The practical effects hold up surprisingly well, and that twist about the little kid still gets me. Perfect example of science fiction that delivers big ideas on a modest budget. Split Second, 1992. Rutger Hauer as a burnt-out cop in a flooded future London hunting a monster that rips out hearts? Sign me up. This movie is like someone threw Blade Runner, Predator, and a British police drama into a blender. The whole film has this wet, grimy texture. Everything's constantly dripping or underwater due to climate change. Hauer chews scenery like it's going out of style with his chocolate addiction and massive guns. We need bigger guns. What makes this special is how it refuses to take itself too seriously while still delivering genuine scares. The creature design still holds up, mostly because they keep it in the shadows. I discovered this one during a late-night cable marathon and immediately called 3 friends to tell them about it. Freejack, 1992, Emilio Estevez and Mick Jagger in the same sci-fi movie. The 90s were wild. Freejack has this bonkers premise where rich people in the future kidnap people from the past right before they die to use their bodies as vessels for their consciousness. Estevez plays a race car driver snatched from 1991 who escapes and tries to find his girlfriend, Renee Russo, who's now 18 years older. The whole thing has this weird comic book energy that shouldn't work but somehow does. I remember arguing with my cousin about whether the time travel made sense. It doesn't, but who cares? Mick Jagger as the bounty hunter chewing every piece of scenery is worth the price of admission alone. Plus, Anthony Hopkins shows up looking completely confused about what movie he's in. Delicatessan, 1991. This French gem feels like if Tim Burton and Terry Gilliam had a baby raised by cannibals. Set in a post-apocalyptic France where food is so scarce that a butcher landlord serves up his tenants, it's equal parts hilarious and disturbing. The colors are all these sickly yellows and greens that make everything feel rotten. There's this amazing scene where an entire apartment building's activities sync up to the rhythm of a creaking bed that's like nothing else I've ever seen in film. I discovered this on a staff picks shelf at my local video store, and the clerk high-fived me when I returned it. The whole underground group of vegetarian rebels called the troglodytes who dress like frogs still cracks me up. Weird, beautiful, and impossible to categorize. Tetsuo, the Iron Man, 1989/1990. This Japanese cyberpunk nightmare is like getting punched in the brain for 67 minutes straight. Shot in grainy black and white with this relentless industrial soundtrack, it follows a guy who starts transforming into metal after hitting a metal fetishist with his car. The practical effects are insane. All these stop-motion metal pieces growing out of flesh, drills emerging from faces, and don't even get me started on that notorious final transformation. I remember watching this at a friend's basement movie night, and 2 people actually left the room during the scrap metal sex scene. You know what's crazy? The director made this for like no money with friends on weekends. It's more of an experience than a movie, like having someone else's fever dream inserted directly into your eyeballs. Time Crimes, 1997. This Spanish time travel thriller blew my mind on a random Netflix night years after its release. The setup seems simple. A guy sees something weird in the woods, investigates, and suddenly finds himself caught in a time loop of his own making. What makes this so special is how it wrings maximum tension from minimal elements. No fancy effects, just perfectly executed cause and effect that gets more and more twisted. There's this scene with scissors that made me physically uncomfortable. The main character keeps making everything worse trying to fix his mistakes, and you just watch this train wreck unfold in real time. Ever had that nightmare where you're causing the very thing you're trying to prevent? That's this entire movie. The City of Lost Children, 1995. Remember when Ron Perlman played a circus strongman trying to rescue his little brother from a mad scientist who steals children's dreams because he can't dream himself? This French fantasy sci-fi looks like something your subconscious would cook up after eating expired Halloween candy. Every frame is packed with these steampunk mechanical oddities, clones, brain-stealing fleas, and a cult of cyclops guys with sonic weapons. The whole thing has this fairy tale quality, but with an edge that keeps you slightly unsettled. I showed this to my girlfriend in college, and she looked at me differently for weeks after. The weird twins who finish each other's sentences, the talking brain in a tank. It's like a beautiful nightmare you don't want to wake up from. Strange Days, 1995. Directed by Catherine Bigelow. When everyone was sleeping on her talents, this cyberpunk noir takes place during the last days of 1999. Ralph Fiennes plays this ex-cop who deals illegal squid recordings, basically other people's memories and experiences recorded directly from their cerebral cortex. You can literally feel what someone else felt. I remember watching this New Year's Eve 1999 and being blown away by how much it got right about our relationship with technology and voyeurism. There's this incredible opening sequence shot from first-person perspective during a robbery that still holds up. And Angela Bassett as the badass bodyguard chauffeur deserved her own spin-off movie. The whole millennium paranoia aspect feels like a perfect time capsule of 90s anxiety. Johnny Mnemonic, 1995. Before Keanu was Neo, he was Johnny, a data courier who carries sensitive information in a wetware implant in his brain. The movie gets clowned on, but it's got so much going for it. A dolphin hacker named Jones, Ice-T leading a group of rebels called the Low-Techs, Dolph Lundgren as a psychotic street preacher, Henry Rollins. Based on William Gibson's story, this thing is pure 90s cyberpunk excess. Remember that scene where Keanu has his epic meltdown about wanting room service? I quoted that for years. The computer graphics look hilariously dated now, but that's part of the charm. This movie is what happens when Hollywood tries to make something edgy and weird, but can't fully commit. It's a glorious mess that I still pop in when I need a nostalgia fix. Renaissance, 2006. Okay, so this one technically falls outside our 90s window, but the cyberpunk aesthetic is pure 90s through and through. This French animated noir is shot in this striking black and white, and I mean literally black and white, no grayscale, that creates this gorgeous high contrast look unlike anything else. The story follows a cop in 2054 Paris investigating a kidnapped scientist, and it spirals into this whole conspiracy about immortality. I discovered this one during a college animation binge and couldn't believe more people weren't talking about it. The rotoscoped animation style makes everything feel dreamlike yet hyper-real at the same time. Remember those AHA Take On Me music video vibes? It's like that, but for a full movie and way darker. If you missed this one, hunt it down. Fortress, 1992. Christopher Lambert locked up in a high-tech underground prison where inmates get fitted with intestinators that cause crippling pain if they misbehave. Sign me up. This Australian-American gem has Lambert's character and his pregnant wife trying to escape from this maximum security hellhole run by the menacing Kurtwood Smith. Yep, Red from that 70s show. The prison has these creepy cyborg guards called Zeds, and this supercomputer called ZEDD that scans prisoners' dreams. The whole thing has this great B-movie energy that never takes itself too seriously. I vividly remember renting this and Dark Knight in the same weekend and getting them mixed up, which made for a very confusing Batman viewing. The practical effects and gore still hold up surprisingly well. Event Horizon, 1997. Where we're going, we won't need eyes to see. That line still gives me chills.
Where we're going, we won't need eyes to see.
This movie traumatized 14-year-old me when I snuck into it thinking I was getting a standard space adventure. Instead, it's basically a haunted house movie in space with some of the most disturbing imagery ever put in a mainstream sci-fi film. That video log scene, you know the one. Sam Neill slowly losing his mind, Lawrence Fishburne trying to maintain control as everything goes to hell, literally. The ship's experimental gravity drive accidentally opened a portal to what's essentially hell, and the ship comes back, changed. The production design of that engine room with its massive rotating spikes gives me anxiety just thinking about it. This movie bombed hard but found its audience on VHS and cable. Anyone else hide their eyes during those flash-cut horror sequences? Soldier, 1998. Kurt Russell grunts his way through this criminally underrated sci-fi action flick as a soldier trained from birth to be nothing but a killing machine. When he's replaced by genetically engineered super soldiers, led by a young Jason Scott Lee, he's left for dead on a garbage planet. The movie takes a surprisingly emotional turn as this human weapon starts connecting with the scavenger community that takes him in. Russell reportedly only has 104 words of dialogue in the entire film. The world building is surprisingly rich. Eagle-eyed viewers might catch references suggesting this takes place in the same universe as Blade Runner. I remember my dad renting this because Kurt Russell looks tough on the cover, and both of us being pleasantly surprised by how much depth it had beneath the action scenes. Pitch Black, 2000. Just barely missing the 90s cutoff, This is the movie that introduced most of us to Vin Diesel's Riddick, one of the coolest anti-heroes in sci-fi. The premise is so simple but effective. A transport ship crashes on a planet with 3 suns, so it never gets dark, except during a rare eclipse when these light-sensitive monsters come out to hunt. The film has this great washed-out visual style where everything looks baked by constant sunlight. Then, when darkness falls, the movie shifts to these haunting blue tones and night vision sequences that completely change the vibe. I remember watching this at a friend's house on DVD and rewinding that opening crash sequence like 5 times because it was so intense. Who would have thought a relatively small sci-fi horror movie would launch a whole franchise? The Arrival, 1996. No, not the one with Amy Adams talking to aliens. This is Charlie Sheen as an astronomer who discovers an alien signal and uncovers a conspiracy about climate change causing aliens disguised as humans. Their backwards bending knees still freak me out. This movie has this great paranoid 90s thriller energy where nobody believes the main character, and he slowly unravels the conspiracy while everyone thinks he's crazy. There's this scene where an alien disguised as a human gets exposed in a bathroom stall that made me check under every public toilet stall door for years. Director David Twohy, who later did Pitch Black, creates this growing sense of dread as Sheen realizes the scope of the infiltration. It's like They Live meets X-Files with a climate change message that was ahead of its time. Anyone else remember those alien terraforming machines that looked like weird mechanical flowers? So there you have it. 20 sci-fi gems that got lost in the shuffle of blockbusters and franchises. These movies may not have had the massive budgets or marketing campaigns, but they've got heart, weird ideas, and practical effects that just hit different. Which ones are you hunting down tonight? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives into forgotten film treasures.